David worked alone in his small repair shop on Kepler Station. The shop was old, with metal walls that had turned gray from years of dust and work. Tools hung on every wall, and the floor was covered with oil stains that would never come out. David had been a mechanic for 30 years. He knew every type of machine, every broken part, and every way to fix things that seemed impossible to repair. The evening was cold and quiet. David sat at his workbench, drinking coffee that had gone cold an hour ago. He was thinking about closing the shop for the day when his door alarm made a loud beeping sound. The alarm only went off when something heavy crossed the motion detector at the back entrance. David frowned. Nobody ever came to the back of his shop. He walked slowly toward the back door, picking up his wrench as he passed the tool rack. The garage was dark except for the small lights above his workstations. As he pushed open the back door, a strange smell hit his nose. It was not a bad smell, but it was different from anything he had ever experienced before. It was like something burning mixed with metal and salt water. There on his garage floor sat a transport pod. It was sleek and silver, covered with strange symbols and patterns that David did not recognize. The pod was making a hissing sound and smoke was coming from one of its sides. David had seen many damaged ships come to his garage, but he had never seen a pod like this one before. It was clearly not human technology. David's first thought was to call the authorities. That was what he was supposed to do. That was what the law said. But something made him stop. Something inside him told him to look first before calling anyone. He stepped closer to the pod. The top of the pod was partially open. David reached out slowly and pulled it open wider. The hissing sound got louder. Inside the pod, lying still and silent, was a creature that David had never seen before and could never have imagined. The being was unlike anything he had ever looked at. Its body was long and thin, made of something that looked like crystal or glass, but it was moving slightly like it was alive. Colors ran across its body in patterns, soft blues and greens that glowed with their own light. The creature had limbs, but they were twisted and frozen in strange positions. Its head was oval-shaped, and where its eyes should have been, there were two dark spots that sometimes flickered with a faint light. David stepped back. His heart was beating fast. But as he looked at the creature more carefully, he noticed something that changed everything. The being was not moving. Its limbs were completely still. The colors that ran across its body were weak and fading. The creature was alive, but something was very wrong. David checked the pod systems. There were buttons and screens inside, but they were different from human technology. He tried pressing a few buttons and one of the screens lit up. Strange symbols appeared, but then the screen changed. Words appeared in English. The pod was showing him information about its passenger. Critical neural damage. Mobility systems offline. Passenger stable but immobile. Medical attention required immediately. David read the message 3 times. The alien was paralyzed. Completely paralyzed. It could not move any part of its body. David looked down at the creature again. The small lights in its eyes flickered once, twice. It was aware. It was conscious. It could see him, but it could not move. David made a choice in that moment. He did not call the authorities. He did not follow the rules that said he should report this to the government officials or the military. Instead, he did what he had always done his whole life. He decided to fix the problem in front of him. "Don't worry," he said quietly to the motionless creature. He did not know if the alien could hear him or understand his words, but he said them anyway. "I'm going to help you. I am a mechanic. I fix things. And I am going to fix this." David worked through the night. He moved the pod carefully into his workshop, away from the main garage where anyone could see it through the windows. He set up his best work lights and brought every tool he thought he might need. The alien did not move, but sometimes the lights in its eyes would flicker, as if it was trying to communicate. David started by studying the pod's technology. It was complicated in ways he did not fully understand, but the basic ideas were similar to human engineering. Machines needed power, systems needed to work together, and broken things could sometimes be repaired if you understood how they worked. He spent hours reading the information screens on the pod, learning what he could about the alien's condition. By morning, David understood the problem. The creature's spine was damaged. Something in the alien's body that controlled movement and communication had been broken, probably by the crash. The alien was like a ship with broken systems, but the most important systems could not work. David made coffee and sat on his workbench. He looked at the paralyzed creature lying in the pod. He thought about everything he knew how to do. He thought about all the machines he had fixed over 30 years. And slowly, an idea began to form in his mind. It was an impossible idea. It was crazy. But David had spent his whole life making impossible things work. He would build something new. Something that had never been built before. Something that would give this alien back its freedom. David stood up, finished his coffee and walked back to his tools. He picked up his wrench and began to work. The alien's name was Kes. David learned this on the third day when he finally figured out how to make the pod's communication system work properly. The system was broken, but after studying it for hours, David managed to repair the damaged wires and replace the dead power cells. When the system came back to life, lights began to flash across the pod in patterns that David's old translation device could almost understand. David had an ancient translation computer in his garage, something he had bought years ago from a scrap dealer. It was meant for simple alien languages, but it was better than nothing. He connected cables from the pod to his computer and waited. Slowly, words appeared on his screen. The alien could communicate. Its name was Kes. It came from a place very far away, a place that David's computer could not translate properly, but it sounded beautiful when the alien said it in its own language, like music made of light. Kes told David what had happened. There had been a ship, a peaceful ship carrying diplomats and important people. But there were others who did not want peace. There were pirates, dangerous people who attacked for money and power. They had attacked Kes's ship without warning. There had been explosions and fire. Kes had managed to escape in this small pod, but during the escape something had hit Kes very hard. The alien's spine had broken. The damage was so bad that Kes could not move anything below the neck. Kes could see, could hear, could think, but could not move. For 2 weeks, Kes had been floating in space, waiting to die or waiting to be rescued. Then the pod had crashed on Kepler Station and David had found it. David asked Kes many questions through the translation system. He wanted to understand the alien's body, the way it worked, the way it was damaged. Kes answered everything patiently, telling David about the crystalline structure of alien bones, about the neural pathways that controlled movement, about systems that David's human brain could barely understand. But David listened carefully and took notes. He drew pictures. He asked questions again and again until he understood. 1 week into their work together, Emma came to the shop. Emma was David's best friend and had worked with him for 5 years. She was smart and good at solving problems. She was also the only person David trusted with this secret. Emma walked into the workshop on a Tuesday morning, carrying her usual coffee and breakfast sandwich. She stopped completely when she saw the pod sitting in the middle of the garage. She saw David standing beside it, covered in blue bioluminescent fluid that had come from the pod systems. Wires connected the pod to David's computer. Tools were scattered everywhere. The workshop looked like a place where someone was building something impossible. Emma stared at David for a long time without speaking. Then she looked at the pod. Then she looked back at David. "What is that?" she asked quietly. "That is Kes," David said. "Kes is an alien. Kes is paralyzed. And I am going to help Kes fly again." Emma did not run away. She did not call the authorities. Instead, she sat down on David's workbench, took a drink of her coffee and asked, "How can I help?" That was when everything changed. Emma was an engineer and she understood technology in ways that David did not. Together, they began to plan something that had never been done before. They would build a ship. Not a normal ship. A small ship. A mini ship that would be built directly into Kes's nervous system through special interfaces. The ship would use Kes's thoughts to move and fly. It would be like an extension of Kes's body, a new body that could move and work and fly through space. Emma spent hours looking at Kes's neural patterns. She studied how the alien's brain worked, how signals traveled through the crystalline structure of Kes's body. She worked with David to design interfaces that would connect Kes's mind to the ship's systems. It was complicated beyond anything either of them had ever done before. They worked through many nights. Emma would bring food and coffee. David would work on the mechanical parts and the power systems. Emma would work on the computer systems and the neural connections. Sometimes they would argue about how something should be built, but they always figured it out together. Kes watched them work and sometimes gave advice through the translation system. "Why do you do this?" Kes asked David one night when Emma had gone home to sleep. "You do not know me. I'm not human. Your government would say this is dangerous. You could be punished for helping me." David thought about this question for a long time before answering. He thought about his 30 years of fixing broken things, about all the machines he had repaired, about all the systems he had brought back to life. He thought about what it meant to be alive but trapped, to be conscious but unable to move, to see the universe but be locked inside a broken body. "Because you deserve to fly again," David said simply. "Because you are alive and you are trapped and I have the skills to help you. That is reason enough." Kes's lights flickered. and David understood that this meant the alien was feeling something strong, something like happiness or gratitude or both. Week after week, the mini-ship began to take shape. Metal and circuits came together in ways that defied normal engineering. The ship was small enough to fit inside a transport pod, but powerful enough to move through space. It would be fast and beautiful and perfectly suited to Kessa's needs. Emma and David became more than colleagues. They became a team. They became friends with an alien who could not move but whose mind was sharp and brilliant and kind. The three of them worked together toward one goal: to give Kess back the freedom that the pirates had taken away. And as they worked, David realized that he had found something he did not expect to find. He had found purpose. He had found meaning in helping someone, in building something that would save a life. He had found that being human meant more than following rules or calling authorities. It meant choosing compassion, choosing to help, choosing to believe that impossible things could be made possible with hard work and friendship and determination. The day of the first flight arrived on a cold morning in early spring. David and Emma had been working for 3 months without stopping. The mini-ship was complete. Every system had been tested. Every connection had been checked. The neural interface was ready. Kess was ready. David stood in his workshop and looked at what they had built. It was beautiful in a way that he had not expected. The ship was small but elegant, designed perfectly for Kessa's crystalline body and alien mind. The exterior was smooth and silver, covered with ports where the neural connections would link Kess to the controls. Inside, everything was built to respond to thought alone. There were no buttons to press, no levers to pull. Kess would simply think and the ship would move. Emma put her hand on David's shoulder. They both knew what this moment meant. If they were wrong, if they had made a mistake, Kess could be seriously hurt. But if they were right, if their work was good, then Kess would have freedom again. Kess would be able to move through the universe without being trapped in a broken body. Kess was lifted carefully into the ship by a special mechanical arm that David had designed. The alien's crystalline body fit perfectly into the custom seat. The neural connections attached themselves automatically, tiny filaments linking Kessa's nervous system to the ship's computer. Kessa's lights flickered with what David had learned to recognize as excitement and maybe a little fear. "Are you ready?" David asked through the communication system. "I am ready," Kess replied. "I am more than ready. I have waited a very long time to fly again." Emma started the launch sequence. The workshop bay doors opened slowly, revealing the sky above Kepler Station. The mini-ship began to rise. It moved upward smoothly, responding perfectly to Kessa's thoughts. The alien was flying. Kess moved the ship in gentle circles, then faster movements, then complicated patterns that showed complete control and perfect balance. David felt tears in his eyes. He had done it. They had done it. They had built something impossible and made it work. Kess flew for an hour, testing every system, checking every function. Then the alien brought the ship back down, landing it perfectly on David's workshop floor. The neural connections released and Emma helped Kess out of the ship. The alien's lights were shining brightly, more bright than David had ever seen them before. "Thank you," Kess said, and the words came through the translation system with so much emotion that they seemed to shake in the air. "You have given me back my life. You have given me back my freedom. I will never forget this. I will never forget what you have done for me." David and Emma smiled at each other. They had accomplished something remarkable. They had proven that humans and aliens could work together, could trust each other, could create something beautiful together. But then Kessa's lights dimmed slightly, and the alien's voice became more serious through the translation system. "There is something I must tell you," Kess said. "Something I should have told you before. Something that is very important." David felt his happiness begin to slip away. He had known that something did not add up. Why would pirates attack Kess? Why would they want to hurt a simple scout or explorer? There had to be more to the story. "I am not a scout," Kess said quietly. "I am a diplomat. I represent my people in the Kepler Collective. I carry information that is very valuable and very dangerous. The people who attacked me, the pirates you think attacked me, they did not attack me randomly. They were sent to stop me. They were sent to kill me." Emma stepped backward. David felt cold fear run through his body, but he did not leave. He stayed and listened. Kess explained everything. There was a peace treaty between humanity and Kess's people. It was a new peace and many people wanted it to work. But there were others who did not want peace. There were people in power, people with money and weapons, who believed that conflict between the species was better than cooperation. These people had hired the pirates to attack Kess's ship and stop the peace process. "The attack was supposed to kill me," Kess said. "The pirates were supposed to destroy the evidence I was carrying, the proof of who was behind the conspiracy. But I escaped. I hid the information in this pod. I thought I would be safe here. I thought no one would find me. They will find you, Emma said. It was not a question. It was a fact. Yes, Kes said. They will find me. And when they do, they will come here. They will come to this garage. They will want to capture me or kill me. And because you have helped me, they may want to hurt you too. David looked at his friend Emma. He looked at the mini-ship that they had built together. He looked at Kes, the alien who had become his friend despite being so different, despite coming from so far away. And he made a decision. Then we will be ready for them, David said. We will protect you. We will make sure that the truth gets out. We will make sure that this conspiracy is exposed. You would do that? Kes asked, surprised. You would put yourself in danger for me? Yes, David said, and Emma nodded beside him. Because you are our friend. Because what is right is more important than what is safe. Because humans and aliens can work together, not just to build ships, but to fight for what is right. Kes's lights shined brightly again, brighter than before. The alien moved closer to David and Emma. In the alien's way of showing emotion, Kes's whole body glowed with warmth and gratitude and something that looked like love, the kind of love that comes from having your life saved, from being helped when you needed help most, from finding friendship where you expected only danger or rejection. Then we will face this together, Kes said. All three of us. We will take this secret and make it known to the world. We will prove that peace is possible. We will prove that humans and aliens can trust each other. David nodded. He had started this day thinking only about flying ships and fixing problems. He was ending this day knowing that he and Emma had become part of something much larger, something that would change the future of two entire species. The sky above Kepler Station grew dark in the middle of the day. David was working on the mini-ship systems when Emma ran into the workshop, her face white with fear. She pointed upward through the window. A massive military cruiser was descending through the clouds. It was enormous, easily 10 times the size of David's entire garage. The ship was gray and covered with weapons and sensors. It looked like a machine built for war. They found us, Emma whispered. David's heart began to beat very fast. He had known this moment would come, but knowing something and experiencing it were two different things. He walked quickly to where Kes was resting in the back room. The alien's lights were flickering nervously. I feel it, Kes said before David could speak. I feel the military presence. They have found me. What do we do? David asked. Kes was quiet for a moment, and then the alien spoke with calm certainty. You have already done everything you needed to do. I have the evidence. The information is stored in my neural systems and backed up in the mini-ship's computer. No matter what happens now, the truth will survive. But first, we must try to survive ourselves. The military cruiser landed in the open area near David's garage. Soldiers began pouring out of the ship's doors. They wore black uniforms and carried weapons that David did not recognize. Within minutes, the garage was surrounded. Armed soldiers stood at every entrance. A barrier was set up around the entire building. Then a single soldier, taller and older than the others, walked forward. This was Captain Helen, and her face showed that she had come to solve a problem, not to listen to explanations. Captain Helen entered the garage with 2 soldiers behind her. Her eyes were cold and hard. She looked around the workshop, at the mini-ship, at David and Emma standing together, at Kes visible in the back room through the open door. You are harboring an extraterrestrial asset, Helen announced in a voice that carried no doubt or question. This is against military law. This is against government law. You are both under arrest. The alien is in military custody as of now. Stand down immediately. David stepped forward. Captain, you do not understand what is happening here. That alien is a diplomat. That alien carries information that will save thousands of lives. I do not care, Helen said. Her hand moved toward her weapon. I have my orders. Stand down. But David had prepared for this moment. 3 weeks ago, when Kes had revealed the truth about the conspiracy, David had started recording everything. He had recorded Kes's story. He had recorded the evidence. He had uploaded copies to multiple secure servers on stations across the galaxy. He had also made sure that the mini-ship had perfect encryption and perfect backup systems. Even if the military took him and Emma away, even if they tried to capture Kes, the truth would still be out there. The evidence would still exist. If you take Kes, David said calmly, the evidence gets released to every news organization in the galaxy. If you hurt any of us, the evidence gets released. If you try to keep this secret, the evidence gets released. You cannot stop this from happening. The only way to stop it is to listen to what Kes has to say. Helen's face showed surprise for the first time. She had expected a mechanic and an engineer to be helpless and afraid. She had not expected resistance. She had not expected that these humans would have already planned for this moment. "You are bluffing," Helen said. "I am not," David replied. "Check your communications. Check your networks. People are already asking questions. People are already looking at the files I sent them. The only thing you can do now is listen to Kes and help us reveal the truth." Emma stepped forward and stood beside David. "We have evidence of a conspiracy to stop the peace treaty," she said. "We have names. We have dates. We have proof of everything. If you try to silence us, everyone in the galaxy will know that the military is protecting the people responsible for murder and conspiracy." Captain Helen stood very still. David could see her thinking, could see her understanding that the situation was more complicated than she had believed. She raised her hand and the soldiers behind her lowered their weapons slightly. "Show me," Helen said simply. "Show me this evidence." David led Helen to the computer terminals. He showed her the files that Kes had provided. He showed her the records of the conspiracy, the names of the people in power who had hired the pirates to attack Kes's ship. He showed her the communications between the military commanders and the conspirators. He showed her everything. Helen's face grew darker as she read. Her jaw clenched. When she finished reading, she sat down heavily in David's workshop chair. "This is impossible," she said. "These are high-ranking officials. These are people I have known for years." "But it is true," Kes said, entering the main workshop. The aliens' lights were steady and calm. "I have lived for many years. I have learned that power makes some beings forget what is right. But there are always some who remember. There are always some who choose justice over loyalty." Helen looked at the alien for a long time. Then she looked at David and Emma. Finally, she stood up and turned to the soldiers who had come with her. "Seal this building," she ordered. "No one enters or leaves without my permission. Send this evidence up to the fleet commander immediately. Mark it as priority 1. This investigation is now under military control." Then she turned back to David. "You have made powerful enemies," she said. "People who wanted Kes dead will now want all of you dead. The military can protect you, but only if you stay where we can keep you safe." David nodded. He understood that his simple life as a garage mechanic was over. But as he looked at Kes and Emma, he knew that he had made the right choice. He had chosen friendship over safety. He had chosen truth over convenience. He had chosen to help when helping was difficult. And in doing so he had changed everything. The investigation took 3 months. Military officials worked day and night to verify every piece of evidence that Kes had provided. They discovered that the conspiracy went deeper than anyone had expected. 12 high-ranking government and military officials had been working together to stop the peace treaty. They had hired pirates. They had planned attacks. They had tried to murder a diplomat to prevent peace between 2 species. But the truth could not be hidden. The evidence was too strong. The files that David had sent to news organizations across the galaxy had already been seen by millions of people. Everyone was asking questions. Everyone wanted to know why these officials had done such terrible things. The conspirators were arrested one by one. They were taken away to face trials that would last for years. Kes was declared a hero. The alien diplomat was invited to important meetings. Kes spoke before the Galactic Council about the importance of peace and cooperation between different species. The alien story spread throughout the galaxy. Everyone learned about the paralyzed diplomat who had been helped by a human mechanic and an engineer. Everyone learned about how friendship between different species could change everything. But more than that, everyone learned about David and Emma. News reports called them heroes. They received invitations to speak at universities and governments. People wanted to hear their story. People wanted to understand how 2 humans had decided to help an alien when it would have been easier and safer to call the authorities and walk away. One day, officials from the government came to David's garage. They were not soldiers this time. They wore formal clothing and carried certificates and official papers. They came to offer David and Emma something that they had never expected. The officials gave David a commendation for engineering excellence and humanitarian service. They gave Emma a medal for courage and innovation. They offered them both jobs working for the government, designing and building ships for any alien species that needed help. They offered them funding, equipment, and resources beyond anything they had ever dreamed possible. But David and Emma talked about the offer for a long time before answering. They sat in the garage late one night, the same garage where everything had started, where David had found Kes in that damaged pod 3 months ago. "We could leave this place," Emma said. "We could work for the government. We could have everything we ever wanted." David looked around the garage. He thought about the oil stains on the floor that he could never clean. He thought about the old tools hanging on the walls. He thought about all the broken machines he had fixed in this small space over 30 years. "No," David said finally. "This is where we belong. This is where the work happens. The important work." Emma smiled and nodded. She had hoped he would say that. "Then we tell them we will do it here," she said. "We tell them we will keep this garage and do this work from here." When the officials returned the next day, David and Emma told them their decision. The officials seemed surprised, but they accepted. The government would provide funding and supplies, but David and Emma would continue working from their small garage on Kepler Station. They would build ships for any being who needed help. They would continue to do what they believed in the place where they had always done it. 2 weeks later, Kes came to say goodbye. The alien had been offered a position as ambassador between the human government and Kes's people. Kes would be traveling to many different worlds, meeting many different beings, building relationships between different species. Kes's mini-ship landed gently on the workshop floor, just as it had on the day of the first flight. The alien emerged and walked toward David and Emma. Kes's lights glowed with warmth and affection. "I came to thank you one more time," Kes said through the translation system. "Without you I would be dead. Without you peace would have failed. Without you my people would still be afraid of yours. You would have done the same for us," Emma said. "Perhaps," Kes replied. "But I will never know. I only know what you have done. I know that you saw someone in need and you helped. I know that you risked everything for someone different from yourself. I know that you proved something very important to the galaxy." "What did we prove?" David asked. "You proved that compassion has power," Kes said. "You proved that beings from different worlds can trust each other. You proved that one person or two people working together can change the future of entire civilizations. My people will remember this. My people will remember you." Kes moved closer and did something that David had never seen the alien do before. Kes reached out and placed one crystalline hand on David's shoulder and one on Emma's. The alien's lights shined so brightly that the garage was filled with beautiful colors of blue and green and silver. "I will return," Kes said. "Not soon but someday. And when I do, I will bring others who need builders like you. The galaxy is full of beings who are broken in different ways. The galaxy is full of beings who need someone to believe in them. You have shown them what that looks like." Then Kes returned to the mini-ship. David and Emma watched as the small vessel rose into the air. It moved upward, faster and faster, until it disappeared into the sky above Kepler Station. They stood in the workshop, watching the empty sky, knowing that their lives had been changed forever. David walked back to his workbench. Already new requests were arriving. Aliens from different stations had heard the story. They had heard that David and Emma would help anyone who needed help. Some of them had broken ships. Some of them had broken bodies. Some of them just needed someone to believe that they were worth saving. David picked up his wrench. Emma turned on the workshop lights. Together they began preparing for the next project. The garage was quiet and full of possibility. The future was waiting. And David knew without any doubt that whatever came next would be better than anything that had come before. Because he had learned something important in the last 3 months. He had learned that being human was not about following rules or doing what was easy. Being human meant choosing compassion. Being human meant helping those who needed help. Being human meant believing that impossible things could become possible with hard work, friendship, and determination. As David worked late into the night, fixing and building and creating, he smiled. He had found his purpose. He had found his meaning. He had found that one mechanic with a wrench could change the galaxy. And tomorrow, when the sun rose over Kepler Station, the work would continue.